What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today once again we've got a bunch of interesting stuff to talk about. There's some news about Festival of the Lost, a couple of interesting things about ERIS, Ashimir, and a HIVE enemy called Nokris, as well as a couple other topics I want to go over. So a lot to cover in this video. So firstly, I want to start off with some news about Festival of the Lost, and depending on if you like the event or not, it may be good or bad news. But Deej actually confirmed on Twitter that it's not happening this year, but may return another time. So someone asked on Twitter, will there be a Festival of the Lost this year? To which Deej said simply, no, we may see it someday, but Season 1 is about the launch and ritual activation. First event of Destiny 2 is the Dawning, which we know of course is the beginning of Season 2. So there you go, definitely a shame there won't be a Halloween themed event. As I said in yesterday's video, there has been one every single year since Destiny 1 launched, all the way back in 2014. So it seems they're focusing more on the Dawning, which of course is going to be the first official live event of Destiny 2. Of course, it's sad to see the festival not returning for the first time, but I'm not massively bothered myself. I would rather see the Dawning bigger and better, because it is going to have proper weapons and armor and all kinds of other stuff, and not just masks, which of course don't actually mean anything inside the game other than cosmetics. You can't really use them. I feel like they probably should have said this and actually confirmed it on the live stream about Seasons. The festival won't be coming back, because there are a ton of people hoping and expecting it to return, and virtually nobody has seen this tweet because there's a reply. So I wanted to get the word out and let more people know the Dawning is the first event in Destiny 2. And of course, let me know what you guys think of this in the comments. Are you sad to see Festival not return, or are you not that bothered and are more excited about the Dawning? So next up, I wanted to talk about a bunch of interesting stuff regarding two really important characters in Destiny, being ERIS and Ashimir, and how they reference some future HIVE enemies we might see, and also involves what ERIS is up to based on some of the things hinted in-game. So as a fun fact, back in March, before Destiny 2 was even revealed, in the Age of Triumph event, Bungie added in some new Dead Ghosts with the Grimoire cards, and they hinted at Destiny 2 events, but of course at the time we had no idea. So one of those Grimoire cards tells the story of Ashimir right after his failed raid against the Vex, where he was captured by them. So as it turns out, Asher is actually good friends with ERIS, and she visited him while he was still unconscious in the hospital after his attack, and this is right before the Cabal invasion and ERIS disappeared. So Asher, of course, was captured and infused with Vex technology, and that is why he has a Vex arm. And also his very own ghost was transformed too, and has a Vex red eye, just like you'll see in a Vex goblin that never blinks. It's pretty creepy. I also really hope we get ghost shells like this in the Osiris DLC. Imagine a Vex transformed ghost with a red eye. But ERIS was speaking to him even though he was unconscious, and she said how she needs to leave the city to find a way to stop the HIVE. And then she also said, a storm is coming and I will not be at your side when it finds our shores. Which is hard to say if she's referring to the Cabal invasion, but I feel like there's nothing else she could be talking about. A storm is coming that she won't be here for, which is exactly what happened. Ghaul attacked and she disappeared. So the big question is how she knew about the Cabal invasion, and also why she didn't tell anyone to prepare for it. But regardless, it's pretty interesting that we had this right under our noses before Destiny 2 was even revealed. Now, where this gets interesting is in some conversations between ERIS and Asher in Destiny 2, which could relate to future events and enemies. So if you look at the class item on the IO armor set that Asher gives in engrams, Asher is replying to ERIS saying that he searched his library but found nothing on this Nokris character that ERIS was apparently asking about. So I'm sure lots of you will have heard the name Nokris and know why it's interesting. He's one of the most mysterious and speculated on characters in all of Destiny, but if you don't know who he is, he's basically a very important HIVE god that Oryx has a statue for in his Dreadnought. That's how we know of him. So there are only 3 statues here. The one in the middle is for Oryx himself, the one on the right is for Crota, his son, and the one on the left is for Nokris. So clearly he's a very important character, maybe as important as Crota, seeing as he's next to him, possibly his other son. But there is zero trace of Nokris anywhere in any records or libraries, even in Oryx's own library called the World's Grave. So the biggest theory that's been going for a very long time that I also agree with is that the Vex probably erased him from time, which is identical to all the Guardians from the original Vault of Glass raid that were also erased by the Vex. There are traces of them, but it's almost as if they never existed. Also, as a fun fact, Crota is the reason the Vex basically exists to us now. It's a very long story, but Crota was tricked into opening a portal which let the Vex through from wherever they came from, and then Crota had a massive war with them for hundreds of years, and then Oryx eventually stepped in and beat them. So maybe Nokris was the other son also in this war that was erased by the Vex, because they were having a massive war between Crota, Oryx's son, and the Vex. So this other son might have been erased during this war. So the fact that ERIS inside Destiny 2 is asking Asher about Nokris is really important, because as we know, she is off researching the HIVE and what they're up to, how to defeat them. So the fact that one and only time she has communicated with anyone since she's left is her asking about Nokris tells you that maybe he'll be a threat in the future. It's also worth noting that Asher knows basically nothing about the HIVE. He is an expert on the Vex, so why would ERIS ask Asher about a HIVE god? And it also makes it a lot more likely that Nokris may have been involved with the Vex or erased by them, and that could be why ERIS is asking this Vex expert on a HIVE god. A pretty crazy theory I thought of is that what if Nokris is trapped inside the Vex gate system, and then in the Osiris DLC, maybe we go to rescue him and we encounter Nokris as well. That would be a really cool twist. Or maybe we accidentally set him free and then him and Savathun fight over the Oryx throne. Probably not going to happen, but something random that came to mind. But either way, ERIS is asking about Nokris, and they could have dropped him completely because there was nothing known about him, but the story team decided to put him in there, definitely implying we're going to see him in the future. Now also, ERIS and Asher are pretty interesting characters in themselves because they're basically mirrors of each other if you think about it. ERIS attempted a raid on the Hive which failed. She was transformed to be part Hive because she took the eyes of an acolyte, which is why she has those 3 Hive green eyes. Asher was also attempting a raid on the Vex which also failed. He was also transformed by the Vex to the point where his arm was replaced by a Vex arm. So both ERIS and Asher are part humans which attempted to raid the Hive and Vex, but were now infected by them, and they're basically mirrors of each other, which is really interesting to think about, and especially that they're communicating and are friends. They are really important characters inside Destiny. There's also a pretty funny line from Cade 6 about ERIS, which I noticed standing by him in the tower for long enough, and he says, "I don't know where she is and I respect her too much to go looking. When Creepy wants to come home, she will. Trust me." So of course, Cade and ERIS have always had their funny back and forth, and she's so serious and he's so lighthearted. I like how he even calls her Creepy instead of her real name, but even Cade flat out says she will come home, trust me. So this is again saying that ERIS will come back, and there's definitely a lot more to her with this storyline. So again, let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section. Do you think Nokris is going to be a very big character? And how do you think he's going to tie into Savathun, who of course is being suggested as the main Hive enemy right now? But I do think it's really interesting how the only thing ERIS has said so far is about Nokris. So I also wanted to give an update about some of the code that was found inside the database that I recently covered. As we know, there was some stuff about Prison of Elders that Bungie confirmed was leftover code, and Prison was not returning in Destiny 2. Well, that code has actually recently been updated and marked as classified with a description of keep it secret, keep it safe, which of course is a Lord of the Rings reference. So Bungie do regularly mark things as classified so we can't see them, and they would have hidden this to not cause any more confusion that the mode might return, because it being there in the first place was a mistake. Now, yesterday I covered how there is code for Eva Levante inside the game as a hidden vendor that says coming soon, but with the news of Festival not returning, it does make her return a lot less likely. She could very well appear as a vendor by herself, or maybe even the Dawning that sells cosmetics or shaders. I wouldn't bet on it personally, even though we do of course see some stuff correct in the code, like the Clarion Call, but now we know Festival is not returning, it's looking a lot more unlikely that we'll see Eva added into the game as a vendor. So next up, we're going to look at a really amazing concept of what the Crucible should look like, made by someone called Alpinisms, and this is another suggestion to Bungie of how to improve the Crucible and add things the community wants to see. We know that Bungie is listening to a lot of the feedback and thinking of what to do next and what to add into the game to improve it, according to what people are asking for, and they took on board the NPC concept I covered recently. They acknowledged it. Obviously, it doesn't mean they're going to do it completely, but they took it on board. But this is another one I'm pretty sure Bungie have seen and hopefully will consider, and it would be, I think, my and a lot of people's perfect idea of what the Crucible should look like, and this is very well made. So this is what the Crucible node would look like according to Alpinisms. So firstly, you've got a social playlist, which is the same as quick play, very casual, and this is your standard one, which could have a rotation of playlists. The next one, of course, would be Rumble. Now this, again, like I say all the time, I don't see why this isn't inside the game. I see literally no reason. The maps are perfectly sized for Rumble, a 6-man or 8-man. I just don't see why it can't happen, so I really, really hope they add it soon. Again, it's on Bungie's list of things they know people want, but whether they add it is another question, so hopefully Rumble is a thing, but a solo free-for-all playlist would be really, really awesome. The next playlist over here would be Mayhem. This, if you don't know, is basically where supers and grenades abilities are on supercharge, so you get them really, really quickly. Back in Destiny 1, this is the fun game mode. It wasn't around all the time, it was on a rotation. But this was just a place to just not take things seriously, mess around and have fun. And also, when they did Mayhem for Iron Banner, it was probably the most fun Iron Banner I had played in Destiny 1, so I do hope it returns. I can see why Bungie might not want to do it because it's not very competitive at all. I mean, if you think of like Titan barriers, imagine 1 billion of those things being popped up, or 1 million Warlock Rifts. It might be a little bit weird, but again, it will be fun, so hopefully it's a thing they consider. And the final playlist all the way on the right is of course a ranked mode, a proper competitive playlist where you have a rank, you have a status, you have seasons, and it would be the most competitive mode inside Destiny and function pretty similar to how you see it in other games like Overwatch, for example. You've also got the standard stuff like Iron Banner and Trials of the Nine, and the bottom left there you've got custom games, which would be pretty similar to private matches, where you can make your own games, your own lobbies, customize the settings, make whatever you want, and it would be hopefully a bit more fun than just simple private matches like back in Rise of Iron. This is actually something that Bungie are definitely working on and are trying to add into the game at some point, but we don't know when. It is on their list of things they're trying to implement soon though. And then the final thing on this concept is map voting, which again is another very hotly requested feature. The whole lobby simply votes for whatever map they want to see the most, and whichever has the most votes you play. So it's very simple. Definitely not a foreign concept for most shooter games these days, but again, that would be something a lot of the community wants to see. I would personally love to see the mode voting as well, so it showed the mode, because instead of just playing Supremacy all the time, it would be nice to be able to pick Control or Supremacy or Clash. I'm sure Supremacy would never get voted, but it puts the decision inside the player's hands. So there you go, really awesome Crucible concept. Hopefully some of that gets considered, and of course I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. But a lot to talk about today. As always, if you enjoyed the video and want to help support the channel, then a like rating down below would be much appreciated. Make sure you are subscribed if you aren't already so you don't miss out on my future videos. And if you want to watch another Destiny 2 video from me right now, then you can click the image on screen. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next one.